are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kings 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Have you taken a deep breath yet? Are you still up late at night trying to figure out what the heck the Spurs did yesterday, late evening? In case you're living under a rock, the Spurs and Hawks completed a trade. And yes, your all-star guard, can't believe I'm saying that, former San Antonio Spurs point guard, Dejounte Murray, is no longer in Spurs colors. He'll be wearing Hawks colors next season because he's been traded to the Atlanta Hawks in exchange for multiple first-round draft picks. Danilo Gallinari as well, likely to be waived. So now you had time to chew on it, sleep on it. We're going to be looking at it, giving it a grade. Did the Spurs win? Was it a push? Did the Spurs get fleeced? Also, what does it mean now? So now what? What are the ripple effects of this trade? Helping me to do that and more is my good friend at Two Shots Podcast, Joe Garcia. Joe, shall we tell everybody that there's now an official lost episode of Locked On Spurs with you and me now?
Yeah, it's
There's a lost
officially
one now.
lost. It just needs to be
Yeah.
burnt and never see the light of day again. You know, we would have had egg all over our face, Jeff. That would have been embarrassing.
Yeah. Joe and I actually had another Locked On Spurs set for you today. And go figure, I think Joe and I jinxed it because we were talking about the Spurs trading Dejounte Murray. And sure enough, later in the day, after we recorded it was all but over. But now, hey, look, Joe, it happened. Spurs fans last night, today, are still flipping tables, celebrating. Yes, there are some Spurs fans that are cheering the move and much more. I know, exactly. Well, why don't we dive into it? Okay. So let's start off with the first segment here and talk about your reaction. Now that you had time to sleep on it, you had a few hours, you rested up, you refreshed this fine Thursday. What are your thoughts?
I'm excited that the Spurs have finally decided to move forward with an identity. You know, the team was in flux, and they had been flirting with the play-in game for the last couple of seasons. They weren't good enough to win, but they weren't bad enough to get a top 5 pick. Now, with them actually getting a couple first-round picks, which I think is a great deal for Dejounte Murray because his stock will never be higher than it is now, it sends a clear direction to the fan base and, more importantly, for the franchise itself. And that is that the team now is in full rebuild mode. And the good thing about this, if you look at the silver lining, that this team can actually go out there and possibly be flirting with a top 5 pick, which means, yes, we can. If we can get a top 5 pick, and it's not saying me like I own the team, but the fan base has been wanting a top 5 pick. Now, if you get a top 5 pick, guess what? That'll go ahead and put the spotlight back on the San Antonio Spurs. If you get a high-level talent that comes and plays with the franchise, it'll go ahead and fill the arena again with fans that actually want to see the Spurs compete and see what this, possibly a top 5 pick with this team could look like. Again, it's good for the franchise moving forward, right? They were just basically kind of stuck in a rut, and they weren't really going to move anywhere or get better with the current roster that they had in place. So to me, it was much needed. This should have been done immediately after Kawhi left. They just, held on to too many pieces for way too long. So it's a couple seasons late, but nevertheless, it's here.
I agree with you. I definitely agree that the Spurs should have pulled something close to this or similar to this with Kawhi. No, not to say it was bad. I mean, you got DeMar DeRozan, but it wasn't enough haul. Definitely should have done that when they were looking to. At least LMA decided to want to leave. You trade them, even if you get some late first round picks, grab them. DeMar DeRozan, as well. Try to move it when his stock was high. I think that was it. His stock was definitely high around the trade deadline the last season as a Spur. My point is, though, I get where Spurs fans are excited about this. A rebuild, a full rebuild, no longer middling, no longer stuck in the middle. You're either going to be really, really good and have a good player on your roster or really, really bad, or you can possibly increase your lottery odds to get that guy. And that's where the Spurs are. Joe, we've seen this team already multiple seasons without a playoff berth. Sure, they make the play in, but it's not the same. And I see the other side of it too, the cons. He is your valuable player. You build around him. Yes, there are Spurs fans that think that. He is an all-star. What are you doing, Spurs? You traded away your best asset. Well, it takes money to make money, doesn't it, Joe?
It does, and if you look what they did in the past with some of their other esteemed players, they hung on to certain players for way too long, way past their primes because they had a gentleman's agreement. This is a business. You can't get your emotions wrapped up in the NBA, and the Spurs finally being able to move forward and get something in return for a high quality player such as
Hmm.
Dejounte Murray. I think that's a really bold move on their part and something that was much needed. Now when you look
Hmm.
back and you see the picks that they selected in this past draft, it starts to make a little bit more sense. Maybe this was something that they had been working on for quite some time already with the Hawks, and that's why the Spurs chose or selected the particular players that they did. Now things start to fall into place.
Yeah, and Spurs fans are still trying to make sense of what happened. They understand the long-term goal, which is acquire assets in that form of draft picks, and boy, did they acquire draft picks. Let's go ahead and look at some of the details now of the deal. The Spurs get the 2023 first-round pick via Charlotte, and that's from Atlanta, the 2025 first round pick from Atlanta, the 2027 first round pick from Atlanta, and future pick swap with Atlanta. A lot of these are unprotected. That's what reportedly pushed the Spurs over to agree to this. All in all, Joe, yeah, it was a shocking trade. Before we started giving out a grade and looking more into this, were you surprised the Spurs did this, or did you see this coming?
I kind of saw this coming, to be honest. I mean, I didn't think that they would actually give up one Dejounte Murray. I thought they might give up something, but if you look at it, the writing was kind of on the wall when you saw what the team could do with the current roster that they had. Again, they weren't good enough to win the play in. And you could tell just by looking at the other teams in the West that have gotten significantly better than the San Antonio Spurs. And one, you look at the New Orleans Pelicans and see what they did when they went ahead and beat the Spurs in the play in and then moved forward into the NBA playoffs. You could tell that the Spurs quality of talent, the roster that they had no business in the NBA playoffs. So I
Mhm.
think that was signaling, hey, this team really does need to form an identity, have a clear direction, and fans had been asking for Tank for quite some time. Well, I don't think you need a tank now because the team is not going to be very good for at least the next couple of seasons. So
Right.
be careful what you ask for because the same fans that had been clamoring for the team to tank are also going to be the same fans that are upset with the team, going to be upset with the team come the regular season because the team
Mhm.
isn't going to be very good. And I think it's going to be hard pressed for them to win any higher than 15 wins. And I'll go on record to say that right now. I'm not scared to predict that. I don't think you would be
Wow.
either, Jeff.
Wow, Joe. Yeah, 15 win season. No, I think this team is good enough to get you close to 30, maybe a little over 30.
You're being
Even
generous.
with even without Murray, I think they are. I think I'm expecting Vassell to make a leap. I'm looking at Keldon Johnson now. I'm looking at seemingly seems are going to give the kid Josh Primo the keys to the car. Uh, who knows how these three new draft picks are going to pan out, but I think they might be good enough to get you close to 30. But we're going to start giving out our grade for this Spurs Hawks deal involving Dejounte Murray. He is Joe Garcia with Two Shots Podcast. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Two Shots Podcast. But yeah, I want to talk to you about Arcade Up. Remember that old NBA Jam back in the day? For those old enough to remember, well, it's back. NBA Jam is back, everyone. Arcade One Up is the leader at home retro arcade games. And hey, it's bringing the best game back ever. It's going to be the Shaq edition. And people are obsessed with NBA Jam. I'm thrilled to tell our listeners you can once again play hoops with an NBA legend in this arcade classic. Set the ball on fire, jump clear across the court, and one of the first sports games to ever feature real digitized NBA licensed teams. No fouls, no free throws, no quarters required. Compete with friends and family through all new Wi Fi leaderboards making you more connected than ever. Now you can pre-order it now, arcade1up.com. That's arcade, the number one up.com for an estimated early September ship date. Arcade One Up is the place for fun. They got even more classes like Golden Tee, Mortal Kombat, and many others, just starting at $399. Check this out. They're giving away an NBA Jam Shack edition to a Locked On listeners. Enter for a chance to win a games console for your man cave at arcade1up.com/locked on. That's Arcade One Up, or the number one up.com/locked on. You got till July 8th to enter to win an NBA Jam Shack Edition console. Don't miss out. Enter today and think about who you're going to be playing with. We're back with Joe Garcia right here on Locked On Spurs. He's with Two Shots Podcast, and we're sifting through the rubble, looking at the aftermath of the Spurs-Hawks trade that involved Dejounte Murray. Can you believe we're going to start saying former Spur Dejounte Murray, Joe?
Hey, man, I'm all for it, man. If it means that we're going to get a top 5 pick, I mean, I love you, Dejounte, love everything he did. But, I mean, I'm happy for the kid. He's going to be able to go to another franchise and possibly even get into the playoffs, see if he can get past the first round with, Ice Trey out there with Trae Young. So I'm happy for Dejounte. But more importantly, I'm happy for the San Antonio Spurs team moving forward with a new direction. Hopefully that translates into a top 5 pick, Jeff, and somebody that will actually be a franchise-changing player. Change is hard, but it's needed.
Are you captain of Team Tank now?
I'm not captain. I'm not saying the Spurs need a tank. Man. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that at least they have a clear direction, even if it means the team not being very good. I'm not all in for that tank nonsense. That's not the Spurs way. That's not, something that Coach Pop is going to go ahead and co-sign on. I mean, he's going to move forward with the team he has. And if they win 10 or 15 games and that puts them in the top 5, so be it. But, I mean, this is who you got now.
Yo, you're going to be going to the AT&T Center? Even though
hey, the silver lining, Jeff, I'm sure tickets will be a lot cheaper this season.
We'll definitely talk about any ripple effects of this deal, but let's go start giving out our grade. Joe, you know what happened? As mentioned, you got some time to sleep on it. It is the day after the deal. What is your grade for the Spurs in this deal with Atlanta?
I'm going to go ahead and give this deal an A-. The reason I'm not going to give it an A+, this is something they should have done a couple of seasons ago. I'm just glad that it's being done now. I'm going to go ahead and give an applause to Brian Wright for finally trying to go ahead and rectify some of the wrongs that were left behind by one R.C. Buford. I commend Brian Wright and the direction that he's taken this franchise right now.
Wow, an A-. There's a part of me that wants to say incomplete because I want to see how this team does with these picks, because I believe that they're possibly not done dealing. They have a war chest of draft picks now, a war chest. You can flip those right now. If you want to go and package some of these picks right now to the Bulls and get Zach LaVine, you could do that. If you want to entice that to Phoenix and bring DeAndre Ayton, for those fans that want to see Ayton in Spurs colors, you can't do that now. You have the option to do that. But if they just stand pat, I'm going to give this a B+. And I know a lot of Spurs fans are thinking, oh, well, the Spurs got fleeced. No John Collins. He wasn't in the mix. How did Atlanta pull that off? Well, I think the Spurs are just simply positioning themselves out for the future. They understand this is a long game, that they don't have that instant franchise player. You're not going to be able to flip some of these picks and bring in Luka Doncic. Dallas will be dumb. You're not going to flip these picks and say, hey, Steph Curry, come put on a Spurs uniform. That ain't going to happen. And if you're going to flip these picks for DeAndre Ayton, guess what? He ain't going to push you over into the promised land, nor is Zach LaVine. And especially Zach LaVine with who? Who's he going to pair with now? Dejounte Murray? Well, he's in Atlanta now. So it ain't going to happen. So I give it a B+. But I'd like to see maybe an additional pick thrown in there. I think so. I think Dejounte should have been around the 4 pickish range, maybe a young player instead of Danilo Gallinari, who we all know is likely going to get waived. Even if you stash him in the G League to develop, I'm fine with that. But I'm going to give it a B+. I'm being greedy with the picks. I know what the Spurs are doing. And also, too, the Spurs avoid having to pay Dejounte Murray near max money. We know that was coming, Joe. He's represented by Clutch. They were probably going to give him some max, or at least close to max money. And
on that flip side of the coin, too, Jeff, you always have to kind of scratch your head and say, did the Spurs franchise even have the money to go ahead and offer a max contract. Because remember, they didn't offer a max contract to Kawhi because he wanted out. They didn't offer a max contract to LMA. They haven't offered max contracts in recent memory here. And it kind of makes you wonder at times, with the team selling off some of the assets that they had in the Rampage and the Stars going over to Las Vegas, the team kind of consolidating assets, plus going ahead and making a bigger push from the business standpoint of looking at bringing in outside investors like they did with Mr. Dell, who owns Dell Computers. Does this team actually have the funds to offer max contracts? So that's the thing. The Spurs franchise hasn't been, let's say, very profitable over the last couple of seasons because, as you and I both well are aware of, is we don't see a lot of fans in the seats at the AT&T Center, and fans only going to come if the team is very good. Right now, they haven't been very good, and they haven't been very good for quite some time. So you kind of got to just something to think about. I'm not saying that there's trouble and they're going to move and they're going somewhere. No, but I'm just saying from a business perspective, when you look at everything as a whole, it kind of makes sense.
Right. And you also bring this into Spurs stay younger. I know they definitely got way younger with the draft picks. They selected 3 teenagers, and they got that max money now. They can throw it at Ayton if they want to. Although I wouldn't throw a max deal at Ayton. I think Portal does exactly what Ayton does. I don't see any difference.
And he's
But
cheaper. Portal's cheaper.
and he's cheap. Yeah, exactly. He's cheaper. But they got the talent now. They got the talent in the form of Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell. More touches for them. That works out great. They
And
have
Vassell's been
guards.
hitting the locker room, Jeff. He bulked up a little bit.
Yeah. They drafted guards, Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley. Who knows if they're gonna come in, and maybe their time in Austin is gonna be shorter now. That's something think about.
Well, Spurs fans
Yeah,
wanted that too, Jeff. Remember.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I'm going to give this a B plus. Again, I'm just being greedy. I wanted more draft picks. I think Dejounte was worth more. But hey, I'm not sneezing at what the Spurs got. That definitely is a haul of draft picks. And now
I
they
got
have
something for you, Jeff. You
what's
just
that?
right now you said you wanted more. So what I'm envisioning is something that you hate, which is the Kylo Ren gif that circulates on social media with him saying, "More, give me
Oh
more."
yeah. He doesn't exist in my head. He doesn't exist. I know you flew the Falcon recently, Joe, but hey, I mean, yeah.
Come on, don't tell me
Those
you're jelly. Don't tell me you're jelly. Come on,
I'm
man.
jelly of
I
you
know you want to get in the
flying the
Falcon too.
Falcon. Of course I do.
Yeah, man. We got to talk
But
about that off the air, man. We got to kind of plan a little geek trip, to get you out there to Disney World sometime to fly
yeah.
the Falcon for yourself. I'm telling you, when you
Well, I'm
see
gonna
it for the
pretend
first time, you're gonna shed
well,
a tear. I know it.
I'm gonna pretend I'm in the Falcon right now and hit the hyperdrive. Tell Chewie to hit hyperdrive because when we get back, we're gonna be discussing the now what. Okay, so what are a couple things that Joe Garcia can see ripple effects with the deal done, sending Murray to Atlanta? What do I think was going to happen now to the Spurs franchise moving forward? Yeah, lots to still talk about on this episode of Locked On Spurs. I want to talk about Sakara right now. Feeling your best starts with what you eat. Sakara helps you live a healthy, balanced lifestyle and truly enjoy it. They got delicious, plant rich, transformational nutrition that builds a foundation for living in your best body. Now is the time to seek wellness, joy, and abundance in all areas of life, starting with what you eat. And that's where Sakara comes in. They have nutrient dense meals, snacks, and supplements that nourish your body without ever having to sacrifice taste or quality. True Radiant starts on your plate, made with high quality organic ingredients. Sakara's plant rich transformational nutritional programs are expertly designed to deliver real results from reduced bloatedness to ease of digestion to clear skin, boosted energy, and moods. Looking and feeling your best shouldn't mean deprivations. Instead, choose joy and abundance. Choose Sakara. Again, organic, plant rich, transformational nutritional programs are there for you, designed to help cultivate body intelligence so you can nourish your body and experience the results you want. Sakara is a wellness company anchored in food as medicine on a mission to nourish your body through the power of plants. They have all the tools you need to transform your life with their organic, ready to eat meal delivery program, functional wellness essential, and much, much more. Right now, Sakara is offering listeners 20% off their first order when they go to sakara.com/locked-on20 or enter code locked-on20 at checkout. That's Sakara, SAKARA.com Sakara.com/locked-on-20. Get yourself 20% off your first order. Sakara.com/locked-on-20. We're back with Joe Garcia, or should I say Captain Solo, right here on this episode of Locked On Spurs. I'm still jealous that he got to fly the Falcon. I still have not flown the Millennium Falcon, Joe.
I find that hard to believe, man, because I mean, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge has been open over here for a couple of years
Hey,
already.
how expensive is it to go out there?
Man, I'll talk to you about that off air, man. It's
I
not that
bet,
bad.
man. Yeah,
It's
here
not
we
that bad.
go.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad. But I'm telling you, once you get there, you're gonna have to save up, man, because I know you're gonna want to go ahead and buy one of those $200 lightsabers. You got to
Oh,
get
you
one
know
when you're there.
me. You know me. You know
I
me.
know
All
you're
right,
not gonna
well,
buy
let's
any of the new merch from the new trilogy, but definitely you're gonna go with
nothing
the
from
new
there.
lightsaber. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go to wrap up our discussion about the aftermath of the Dejounte Murray trade. Now that everybody had a nice sleep, hopefully everybody got their 8 hours in, thought about it, rested on it, and kind of sifting through the rubble now. So now what, Joe? What are two things you see from this trade that's going to have a ripple effect in the Spurs franchise moving forward?
That's gonna be attendance because it's gonna be at an all-time low
He went to
before it gets better.
attendance.
Hey, I'm keeping it real as far as the fan base goes. This is something that really is gonna hurt. It's like if somebody just stabbed him in the back, and just ran the blade right through the heart. I mean, it's gonna hurt for quite some time. The fan base is gonna be jaded. They're gonna be asking why. Eventually, it's gonna be the three phases of grief. You're gonna go through sadness, you're going to get angry, and then you're going to go ahead and just have acceptance. And I think finally when the acceptance comes in, the season's going to be over, but the fan base is going to be upset and jaded for quite some time. They're not going to fill the seats at the AT&T Center, and the Spurs are going to do anything in their power to go ahead and get the fans to come back in and see the full rebuild in all its glory. But the other ripple effect is going to be once Dejounte was the first shoe to drop, what other players are the Spurs going to go ahead and trade? I mean, you have other younger players like Vassell, you have Trey Jones, you have Keldon Johnson, for example. What are they going to wind up doing with these assets? Are they going to go ahead and see what they can get for them as far as picks? Are they going to go ahead and want to trade for, some other veterans to kind of fill some roles on this team? It's going to be interesting to see what transpires here in free agency moving forward. So definitely, that's to me, those are the two things that you're going to have ripple effects for maybe the foreseeable future.
Yeah. I think another for me, my ripple effects are, the I guess the more minutes allocated to some of the young players, more touches for Keldon, more touches for Devin, more touches for Primo. I think that's one of the biggest ripple effects is how much stock are the Spurs giving a teenager, a kid, to probably run the point. Although it's nothing official, his first new season is still months and months away, but he might likely get the keys to the car. No,
I don't
is
even
that
know if he
going
has
to
a license.
jumpstart?
Does he have a license?
I don't even think so either. But we'll definitely see that as a ripple effect. More Primo, and I think Spurs fans will be okay with that. And also, too, I think a ripple effect is they can make moves now. If they don't want to wait for the draft, if they don't want to tank for whoever's out there, Victor Wembanyama, the French kid, or is it the kid from the G League Ignite? I believe it's Scoot Henderson. They don't want to wait and they want to bring in power players now. Maybe not franchise players, but assemble a great crew. They can do that. They got the assets now, whether it be Aiton, whether it be a Levine, whether it be any other future free agent out there. They can flirt with that now. Maybe, who knows? They have enough power now to bring in a name free agent as well, with these kids developing, getting better. And if they land a number one pick or a two or a three, they can become an attractive destination. So I think in the short term, it's going to hurt. Spurs get ready for another long season. Well, losing streaks left and right. Although I don't think it'd be as bad as Joe predicts. 15 wins, Joe.
It's
Come
gonna
on.
hurt, Jeff. It's gonna hurt.
I hope you're wrong. I still think they can win 30. I think they can get 30.
Oh man, you know what? We're gonna have to put these predictions up, dude, and
I
pin
know
them
we're
to
gonna have to.
your profile. I'm picking 15. You're picking 30. Let's see which one of us is the lesser of two evils.
Right. Yeah. And also too, they don't have to pay Dejounte that near max money that he might have asked for once his current contract was
Yeah,
over.
maybe
So
they can use that money to actually have the bobbleheads available for you at bobblehead
I
night at
know.
the
Imagine
AT&T
those Spurs
Center.
fans that are picking up their bobbleheads of Murray
Dude,
right
I'm
now. That
still
rain
waiting
check.
for mine. I'm still waiting for mine. I know they're available. You just got to find the voucher and go in,
Yeah,
to the AT&T Center and pick it up. But I mean, come on, how are you going to have bobblehead night and not have the bobbleheads available? Might as well not even have bobblehead night. And you know
I
what?
know, right?
Let's go ahead and just ban bobblehead night altogether because every single person that you all have had on a bobblehead, they gone. The next one is
Yep.
is going to be Keldon. Keldon had a bobblehead and he's still with the team. So
Yep. Will be a
it's good.
bobblehead trade watch. Watch out for Keldon next. Who knows? But no, all kidding aside, yeah. I think you're going to see a lot of ripple effects. I think they're going to be positive. It's going to take a while, but the Spurs are definitely playing the long game. This is a team, a franchise in a full blown rebuild. No more changing the tires, going 55 miles an hour. No more plugging in spare parts left and right, hoping to make the playoffs. Now they gave up on that. They're going full on rebuild, and that's what we're going to witness starting now.
Hey,
Hopefully,
let me ask you a question though, Jeff.
go
Real
ahead.
quick. How long do you think Coach Pop is going to stick around for a rebuild, man?
I don't know. I mean,
That's a
looks like
big question.
all signs are pointing that he's going to be back next season. He greeted the Spurs rookies when they were selected, welcomed them to the team. So it all in all looks like he's going to be back.
You give him another couple
I
seasons. I give him maybe 2, 3 seasons. He might stick around to kind of usher in this new era of Spurs talent. This young talent, and kind of get him in a good spot before he decides to hang it up. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good question. I mean, how much longer is Coach Pop going to be here?
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. By the way, before we put a wrap on this episode of Locked On Spurs, ESPN's Brian Rindhorst, he's reporting that Dejounte Murray told the Spurs he was not going to sign an extension with the team.
That's not
Ooh,
surprising, man, because the kid
ooh,
wants to win. Kid wants to win. I mean, you look to see what he's done. Do you blame him? I mean, you would want to go and play on a winning team after all the effort that you put into your game, and that wasn't just that
absolutely.
was not going to happen here. So doesn't surprise me.
Well, guess what we're going to be talking about in the next episode of Locked On Spurs is this new report about Dejounte and
I
the
want to talk about
Spurs.
Arcade Up. I'm really excited that you all have that sponsor now, man. I'm waiting for
Yeah.
Jeff to kindly invite me over when I go to New York, and maybe you can go ahead and let me see the Jeff Garcia man cave, and you might have an Arcade Up machine, maybe a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or that X-Men, or maybe you'll even have the what is it, the NBA Jam or the coveted Star Wars arcade one up.
Oh, you're getting me too excited here. Getting me too excited here, Joe. I wish I
See.
had that kind of cash to get all those in one shot. But hey, we're done talking. We want to hear from you. What do you think about the Spurs deal with the Hawks involving Dejounte Murray? Do you agree? What is your grade? Do you give it an A, a B? Do you think the Spurs get fleeced? Let us know. You can let Joe know on Twitter at Two Shots Podcast. Joe, tell us about that.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and start recording some new episodes of Two Shots actually starting this week. And the weird thing is that we had taken a little break here because we had some deaths in the family, that really affected us. And unfortunately, we just needed some time off. But now that I've had vacation, got to spend time with family, starting to get back in the swing of things, now we decide to record this week, and look what happens. The Dejounte Murray news. So at least you guys know what's going to be the next topic of discussion on the new episode of Two Shots Podcast. And maybe we can go ahead and get Jeff to be our guest next time.
You know it, Joe. You just let me know, and I'm on board. Subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcast, Google Play, Stitchers, iTunes, and now on YouTube. Please go check out the YouTube page. And we appreciate you making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. I'm pretty sure you're interested to know what the Hawks are thinking about, so go check out Locked On Hawks, see how they're welcoming their new player, former Spur Dejounte Murray. That just sounds so weird. But for Joe, Captain Solo Garcia, I am Jeff Garcia. We're gonna put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.